morning. I'm JCapelle.
And so Jordan and I had different internships at the same community service and legacy. The topic was on the importance of water quality and improvement methods.
Focus on water quality because in junior year I took environmental science. The object of the class was to pick a topic that would help the community. And so with the students, I took 8 water samples and we tested for iron content in them. 2 of them had a higher than normal content of iron, but it was nothing to raise concern. But this really sparked my interest in water quality and led me to a whole senior project about it. I actually started with my legacy idea to improve the water quality here at the school. Here are the steps to find out what I need to learn in order to achieve this goal. Research question of how are rivers and other waterways affected by agricultural runoff, and what improvement methods are there in the world today? That's the statistics because 80% of China due to toxic for fish to thrive in, which is kind of mind-boggling. Luckily, the United States is not that bad. But I also found through research that it's great for water quality because about 5.6 million gallons of water are used per frac. Emitted from this process is polluted with toxic chemicals, which causes. Pictured here is a wastewater pond where the water is dumped, done in order to keep the water from seeping into groundwater. One improvement method would be to just overall on a global level reduce oil fracking and look for alternative means of. For my internship, I did it with Peter Hugin, works at PEC or Piedmont Environmental Council as a land conservationist. It turns out that by conserving land, we also conserve because with land conservation easements, guidelines set on properties, the natural qualities of the land. So, for example, property has really soil with lots of nutrients in it, more agricultural land conservation easement on sustaining the rich soil. And so limit the chemicals that can be put on the land and therefore limit the amount of chemicals that are run off into putrefaction and other. What he did, which I thought was really interesting, was a water trail. The points he was thinking about including into his project. Water trail is basically 3 points that he had in mind along the Rapidan, which are going to be used as drop-offs for people to tube in and have fun and float down the river. Points. And so create activity that would bring more awareness to water quality, and because it's a recreational site, there would be more means to maintain the area.
So I completed my internship with John Saunders, who is a civil engineer and senior environmental planner at the City of Fredericksburg Town Hall. So the main part of his job involves stormwater management. Stormwater management, it sounds just like managing stormwater. It is, but it's a bit more complex than that. A chart my mentor gave me on our very first meeting, and he took about an hour and a half to explain it to me. I'm going to explain it to you in 30 seconds. Let's go. So the biggest 2 points of this chart is 4 right here, municipal separate storm sewer system, and the Chesapeake Bay TMDL, which stands for total maximum daily load. 2 different types of permits granted to the City of Fredericksburg so that they can storm water So the Chesapeake Bay TMDL focuses mostly on so pretty much iron, copper, nitrates, phosphates, lead, anything that in high enough concentrations can harm an organism. On the other hand, focuses more on the local level, and it focuses on controlling water volume. The city of Fredericksburg can do a lot of things to control water volume. Yeah, don't get too bogged down by the start, by the way. So one of the main things is through BMPs, or best management practices. Pretty much little devices that can be installed to help control runoff. Maintain the community, so stuff as simple as pick up after your dog so it doesn't pollute. Don't pour paint down storm drains. And also, a big thing is this development, review, and enforcement. That involves pretty much mostly my mentor analyzing engineering plans to make sure that are developing safely. They're not drainage patterns. They're not going to cause increased erosion downstream. They're not putting extra pollutants. So yeah. One of the first days of my internship, we took a look at some of these plans I was speaking of. And this is a room in the city of Fredericksburg that has all the engineering plans for the entire city. Cool. Is it cool? So mostly have to do with just development. So buildings, anything that you have to build, and any land that you have to clear to do something. This is one of the plans we looked at. They're really complicated. This is about the lease dents you get, and they can be like 4 pages long, so it's really overwhelming when you first look at it. So all of these pictures up here are different cross sections of piping, because this particular plan had to rework some underground pipes. These are different calculations for the piping. So those take into account pipe length, pipe curvature, any kinks in the pipe, because those can all mess with water velocity, water volume. And the most important thing in these calculations is you're trying to figure out a volume the pipes can handle, and ideally that will always be higher than the amount of water. On the very last day of my internship, I actually inspected some of the best management practices. So this is a detention pond. So what it does, this is like in a little valley, it's like uphill everywhere else. When it rains, water comes from all directions down to this little valley, and it's stored there. This is a riser structure, and there are little holes at different levels in the structure. So as the water rises, eventually it'll hit a hole, and so that's a way to in the pond and allow it to out of it, so that it doesn't flood downstream all at once with all this water. For my research, my burning question was, how can we best produce sound urban areas without future development? There really is no answer. That's actually true. Really, you have to all methods that you have in your arsenal. One of the best ways to do this is to mimic nature in development, because nature has been doing this like for forever, and it's been fine. It hasn't been until us humans came in that everything's being messed up. But yeah, so mimicking nature and drainage patterns. Another important thing is, as we're developing to develop like with the environment in mind, because development and trying to make it green to the environment is so much harder than just making it with the environment in mind in the first place. Is for anything we can't fix with those first two is to use the best management practices to help alleviate stormwater.
So for community service, which we did together, mentor was Mr. John Wright, was a science teacher at Orange County High School. He was involved in implementing environmental policy on the state level. Mostly helped us with examining the data after our test results and teaching us.
This is from one of our first days of our community service. What we did first is we went like into the wild and waded through a river to macroinvertebrates, which are just really tiny creatures, because those are really sensitive pollutants and environmental hazards. So by telling that, you can tell like what type of condition the stream is in, like how good the water quality is. We learned different factors of water quality: dissolved oxygen, nitrates, iron, pretty much any nutrient, and like which are the most important in determining how healthy an organism will be.
So part of our community service, going into our legacy, samples throughout the school. The one on the far left is store-bought, and the other two are from water fountains in school. This was after winter break, so it did have time for a buildup of particulates. Testing found high levels of iron and copper water samples. Luckily, neither one of these are harmful unless in high doses. Copper, iron, nitrate, and the pH of the water. We tested them, so we drank the middle one. Great.
It wasn't great. And then, so this water bottle in the very middle per night, so it was only about 12 hours, and you can't see it very well. Of the like color has settled in a ring at the bottom. So we're like, huh. So with Mr. Wright, we looked at it under a microscope, covered that little thing right there. Iron fixing bacteria. And so iron fixing bacteria will by itself. Is though it does indicate that there might be other issues with the water. There you go.
So, also part of our legacy, we wanted to get professional testing done, so we started a GoFundMe account, and within 24 hours, we raised $60 over our asking. Great, we received lots of feedback from the community. And it also raised awareness to our project and what Noel and I were doing. Cool to get even further. Very nicely, they tested the water. Still waiting for test results back from them, but soon. Very soon.
Okay, so even though our legacy is technically completed, since we did get support from the school and convince them to like get the water tested, we are going a little bit further with our legacy, and we will be submitting a plan to get water fountains installed. We want about one per floor. So, and then they also have handy dandy water bottle fillers, and those actually help to conserve water. Surprisingly enough, water fountains do waste a lot of water. So if you're filling up with your water spillage, save water. Two birds, one stone.
This is an accurate representation of how Noel and I felt about halfway through our project. future governor school kids is to not only do something you're passionate about, but to really fight for it. Noel and I faced some opposition with our project, and we just kept. And so my advice would be to do the same and really fight for something you believe in.
So my advice, since I've done this whole project in water quality, and water is just so important to me. And then my other advice is, so I'm not going to lie to you, this project is very stressful. An open mind as you're doing it, because if you let the stress get to you, it just makes it so much worse. And like the worst thing that can possibly happen to you during your project, something worse will happen. Like at the beginning of my internship, I was trying to do physical therapy, and then I went to biology, and then I went to strictly environmental science, and then I somehow ended up in engineering. It doesn't go the way you think about it or think. But trust me, it will work out in the end. So just keep an open mind about anything that comes at you.
For future plans, hopefully I'll be attending UVA School of Engineering to study materials or chemical engineering with a minor in art. JMU, so that would be another awesome school to do engineering at. And I also will continue to work with PEC. Even though my internship's over, I'm still doing it. Actually, tomorrow I'm doing an event with them.
And then on the flip side, I have already committed to Virginia Tech School of Engineering. I'm planning to be some form of environmental engineer, whether that be like my internship was in, or I possibly want to go into sustainable energy.
In your research, what kinds of sustainable energies you encounter that you found were notable or excited about?
There are a lot. So it mostly comes down to like best management practices. So there are a ton of different ones. There are swales, which are basically just a shallow ditch that are lined with vegetation that help to absorb water and help absorb through the soil. There are the detention ponds that they always drain water at a steady pace. There are retention ponds, which always have some water stored in it. Something that's really cool, because this is like really applicable and no one like knows about it. There's things called wet curves and dry curves. And so wet curves, the pavement slants a little bit towards the curve and it brings water. And like that helps drainage in a parking lot, and like no one ever thinks about it, but it's there.
It's really cool. Another thing is I learned about riparian buffers, which use native plants to base species, but there's just triggers to help filter out any toxic materials.
You mentioned in your research about two of the border in Orange County. The other issues aside from the iron, did you find out what they could possibly be, and do you have suggestions and objective for the school?
Currently waiting on the test results to get back, and then after we analyze that, some sort of filters installed on the water fountains so that, you know,
The iron in the iron-producing bacteria is an indication that pipes are corroding. How old they are.
So has that been brought up?
That's
something that you have in your
part of
plan?
our plan that we're going to do later on as an extension to our plan. Thanks, you guys.